Alright, so this video is going to be some more Triple Triad history, specifically a look back at Player of the Years and an alternative way of calculating them, I guess, rather than a vote, scoring people based on their tournament results. So this is not who actually won the award. I don't really have the records of this, I just have what I remember, which is, when I did well, and when Occult Fan mentions the winner. So I know Delial won in 2007. I know Delial and Turds tied for it in 2008. I know I won it in 2009 and 11. I had a guess on who won it in 2010, but I really wasn't sure. I had some other guesses, but I don't actually have the results. I couldn't find them with the Wayback Archive. So I decided to do a kind of retrospective look at each year, came up with a point system, and came up with a winner for every year in the top 10 and hoped that some fun names would pop up. I've done a lot of crediting players who were really good over sustained amounts of time, but players who, had one really good year or something. I think something this misses is if, for instance, you have someone like Scythe, right? Serenity. And he had a really good second half of 2008 into first half of 2009, right? So if that was a year period, if that was a calendar year from like May to May, he would look amazing. As is, he'll still look quite good. We'll still definitely see his name. But because of the exact calendar year splits, some players will get more or less credit than you'd get with other splits. So the system I came up with, and I'll talk about using alternate scoring at the end, but I gave you 16 points for winning a tournament, 8 for a finals, 4 for a semis, 2 for a quarters. Then you get an additional point for every match you won. So if you got a lot of activity wins, you won't receive as many points. If your tournaments were longer, you won 7 rounds and 7 rather than 6 or later 5, you'll get more points. I give you an extra point for beating a winner or like one of those huge name non-winners like Mafi Josie or Piggyman or Kazik, those kind of players. So you get Jadat, Tezuka. There were a bunch in that category or a winner. You get 2 if you beat like a really high-end winner, like a Kamikaze or something. And you get 3 if you beat one of the people I've had in the GOAT discussion or am yet to have in the GOAT discussion. So that was the scoring system I came up with. We'll talk a little about how it would ranks change if I used a different scoring system. If, for instance, I didn't give so many points for winning a tournament or I didn't give bonus points for beating good players, does much change. So some caveats. If a year doesn't have 4 or more tournaments, I will combine years until they do. So this won't exactly be a Player of the Year winner for every year, but this seemed better than years where the winners there was 2 tournaments. One was won by one player, one was won by the other, and one of them, I give it to. It seemed more interesting to combine such that there were enough tournaments in each year that it was interesting. Each year is scored separately, so there is no kind of, I was super dominant in 2010, but not so good in 2011, and I still get a good 2011 score because I was so good in 2010. That is not the case here. You have to perform every year to keep showing up. And a player will only make the list if they had a great year on that exact year, or in the case of me combining years, that combo of years. Many of the numbers I do are like win percentages, and if you go inactive, your win percentage stays the same. Here, we're going to reward activity. So if someone plays 1 tournament and wins it, and someone else plays 5 tournaments, wins one of them, and goes out first round in all the others, I am not penalizing you for losses here. And this is going to help some players and hurt others. The really high win percentage players, which includes myself, are not going to look as good in this as players like me do in other formats. While lower win percentage players who achieved a lot more or retained activity are going to be credited. And I think for a Player of the Year award, it seemed to me that focusing on the players who achieved a lot rather than the players who maybe played 1 or 2 tournaments and did well in those 1 or 2, that seemed like the thing I wanted to reward with the Player of the Year thing. So this is not necessarily the person who played the best in a given year. It's kind of trying to measure the person who achieved the most, beat the most really good opponents, won the most tournaments, or went deep in the most tournaments. And at the end, I'll show the top earnings for most points per tournament someone played in, which I think will be an interesting alternative way of looking at it. But for now, I really just want to focus on this is kind of a measure of pure achievement, and I want to credit the people who achieved a lot. And so we're going to go through each year and give a Player of the Year. So this is how it's going to look. I'm going to give the list of the top 10. you'll see in 2003-4, I combined these years because there were only 2 tournaments in 2003. If 2003 was its own year, Chaos Debonair would have won. If 2004 was its own year, Doc Evil would have won. But now we don't know which will win between them. So here you'll see Kamikaze came 10th with 3 quarterfinals and 11 wins. You'll see, so it gives a score, which is the number of points by the system, then the player's name. Then in parentheses, you'll see all the icons they earned that year, and then it will give the total number of wins they earned in this period. Then Kefka got 20 with 9 wins, making a semifinals and a quarters. Firebrand and Broccoli each won a tournament and scored 22 points for it, winning the first and second site championships. Aurora made a finals and a semifinals and has 8 wins, and Unfixable won Laguna and has more wins than Broccoli and Firebrand, so placed ahead of them. Again, if you look at this and you think, I think Kamikaze should be higher, he won more games. That is a reasonable thing to do, and you can kind of mentally readjust. And as I said, I can change the scoring if anyone's like, I want this alternate scoring system. I can easily switch to that and pop out results. But I do think winning should be worth a lot, right? Because the difference between going 7-0 and 4-1, right? If I win one and go out the first round of another tournament, let's say that combines to 6-1. If I make 2 quarterfinals, I also reach 6 wins, but have 2 losses. I went 3-1 each time, say these are 6-round tournaments, and went 6-2. I really do like crediting wins more. So while I personally, if I was ranking this, might have Kamikaze this year higher than 10th, and don't worry, Kamikaze will score well other years. And of course, making the top 10 is very good in any year. I do like crediting winning tournaments. So what I'm going to do is put question marks for the top 3 slots, and then on the next slide, I'll show you who filled the top 3. So you kind of have a countdown build-up sort of thing where you look at the top and then you can think who's going to be in those top 4 slots. So we know Doc's going to be there. We know Kaus is going to be there. Who else was really good in 2003 and 4 who's going to make it? Oh, the one other thing I want to say for the framework of how I'm showing this is at the top, you'll see I say the year and I say POTY, Player of the Year, and then in parentheses there's a number. That's how many tournaments are included in this period. 7 is the most tournaments ever going to be included, but it's because 2003 didn't have enough, so I combined it with 04. Most years, 2005 through 2013, it will be a single year, and that will have enough tournaments to do it. So, okay, let's see who the top 4 are. Now, normally I only show the top 3, you know, the gold, silver, and bronze medal, but here there was a tie for bronze, so I hit the top 4. All right, here's our top 4. We have a tie between Kaus and Mafijosi. Kaus, with 13 wins, won the first Triad Wars, had no other icons, but to get to 13 wins, obviously he had to pick up a bunch of wins in other tournaments. Mafijosi also had 30 with 3 different icons, tied for most here, 2 semifinals and a quarterfinals, and 14 wins, the second most of the period. I wanted to say year, but this one isn't exactly 1 year. In second place, we have Cookie, who won Yuffie, made a semifinals and a quarters for 17 wins, which will be the record for a while. And winning it, 2 tournaments played, 2 tournaments won, 12 wins. We have Doc Evil scoring 47 points and taking our first Player of the Year title. If this was divided separately into 03 and 04, Kaus would have won 03 and Doc would have won 04, and Cookie would have put up a tremendous score and come second in 04. All right, 2005. So we get Jaws XEV. I didn't write down their stats if you tied for 10th because I am lazy. I don't know who XEV was. Jaws, I think, is a very good non-winner, and I think I did give people an extra point when they beat Jaws because I think he's one of the kind of underrated players if you look at Triple Triad's history. Then we get an early performance from Vid. He will disappear for a while, but come back strong. We get Yevon with the finals and 8 wins. We get the first sighting of Sujiro with the semis and a quarters, I think in his first 2 tournaments, and 9 wins. Doc Evil played his 3rd and final tournament, and that was enough to get the top 10 in 2005 as well. Kefka made a finals. He makes a 2nd list. And Bren wins Triad Wars 3 to come 4th. Who's our top 3? Who was great in 2005? We have Beastay with 29 points, winning Tifa and 7 wins. Kind of a goofy win because Beastay actually lost in the quarterfinals, but the 2 players who advanced to that side semis both disappeared, and he was advanced into the finals and then beat Doc Evil, so gets a lot of bonus points for beating Doc Evil here. He won 7 games and comes 3rd. Karmazin played 2 tournaments, winning one of them. These are the only 2 tournaments Karmazin played. I remember when I first showed up on the site, I looked at Karmazin's history, I saw him playing Open Trade, and I thought, this guy and Delial are the two best players on the site. And I still kind of wish Karmazin had played more because I wonder in bigger samples how he'd stack up because he has an amazing resume. And then winning our 2005 Player of the Year, we have Kamikaze with 13 wins, the most in the year, winning a tournament and making the semifinals of another one. So that's 2005. Then I'm going to have feats, like things that, interesting tidbits or trivia about the year. So Kamikaze, Kefka, and Doc Evil are the only players in both top 10 so far. No player has been top 5 twice or earned a medal, top 3, gold, silver, bronze, twice. Doc Evil has the most cumulative points with 65, followed by Kamikaze at 54 and Cookie at 46. And a surprise to me, the mighty Kefka is in 4th with 42. Kefka, because he never won a tournament, is not one of those names that is kind of stuck around in the lore of Triple Triad, but he's a very impressive resume. Kaus and Mafi Josie remain tied. They were both at 30. They earned 5 points in 2005. They both move up to 35. And Karmazin has 34, and that's the top. Wait, let me count. That's the top 7. There was some drop off after that, I think, so I stopped it at a top 7, but we'll get to top 10s later. The 3 best yearly performances are Doc's 47 and Cookie's 44, and this year Kamikaze's 37. But it is the case that Kamikaze scored his 37 with only 4 tournaments. Doc and Cookie scored it with 7 tournaments available each. Now, Doc only played 2 of those, so we can quibble, but there were more available for them than there were for Kamikaze's 37. As I said earlier, if you think these weightings are stupid, I would like to give different scores, just tell me what weightings you want. It's easy for me to plug in. I can put out results. Jadot came 12th. I'm not sure if Jadot will ever make the top 10 here, which feels kind of silly because Jadot had an awesome 2005. But he kept having like a good result at the end of a year and then a good result at the start of the next and then not having good results for a while. And that just was never enough to really pop him in for a full year. But he keeps coming close and amasses quite a bit of value. 2006. So here we have Tezuka with a semifinals and a quarters. Kazik makes his first finals. Gafgarian makes a finals, another of those names that's kind of disappeared, but 20 points is a very good showing in a year. We get the first sighting of what I've always pronounced Kana, but I believe is Kona. But once again, as always, correct my horrible pronunciations in the comments. And we do get a Jadot sighting, so what was I talking about? It's almost like I forgot what I wrote down as soon as I did so. We also get our first sighting of Seto with a finals and a semis and 11 wins. And Virgil, the winner of Triad Wars 4, puts up 28 points and 8 wins. But who is our top 3 in 2006? We get Met with 11 wins, 32 points, the winner of Zell. We get Cookie, who won a tournament and made a quarterfinals with 14 wins. And our winner in 2006 with the exact same score as Kamikaze had in 2005. Every time I look at numbers, I think Kamikaze and Sujiro are so intertwined. They have such kind of similar results, and Kamikaze ends up playing more, and we'll see that here. But they have such a similar resume. They have such, like, you look at win percentages, and they're both like 70.3, like within like 0.3 or 0.4 of each other. Just everything you look at just, I come up with a random point system. I look at what happens. And in 2005, Kamikaze scores 37. And in 2006, Sujiro scores 37. It's just incredible how it happens. So Sujiro with 12 wins, a win in Eris. I've argued the best 7-round tournament ever won. Sujiro wins my 2006 Player of the Year. Cookie puts up another fantastic result and again has to settle for second place. So some feats. Cookie becomes the first player to finish top 3 twice, and no one has made all 3 lists. Some people have made 2 lists. Cookie has made 2 lists and both times finished top 3. Doc has made 2 lists, but no one has made all 3 lists. Sujiro ties Kamikaze at 37 for the 3rd best score and ties Kamikaze for best score per tournament available, because the better scores from Cookie and Doc Evil were in 03-04 when 7 tournaments were available, and in 05 and 06 we only have 4 tournaments available each. So if you say, 4 is 4/7 of 7, Sujiro and Kamikaze have the best score per tournament available so far. The most Player of the Year points total cumulatively is now Cookie jumps up to 80, Doc Evil at 65, then we get Kamikaze and Sujiro at 63 and 58, right next to each other, as they should be. We have Kefka at 46 and Kaus at 42. Kefka is the only player there not to have won a tourney. So given that I'm giving a lot of points for winning a tourney, and you may think I should give more, in which case ignore this part, but I think it's impressive that Kefka is in the top 5 of total performances so far without having won a single tournament. Mafi Josie is the next highest on the list, and the next highest to not have won a tournament. We will be seeing more of Mafi Josie, just misses 40 points. Cookie becomes the first player to win 14 games in a single year list. We saw 14 wins earlier and 17 wins earlier, but that was in multiple years. Though, in fact, he did win his 17 all in 2004. So the record for a single year number of wins is Cookie at 17, followed by Cookie at 14. And Cookie in 2004 is also the only player with 3 icons in a single year. So I think if you look at the kind of 2003 to 2006 period, Doc Evil's resume is obviously incredible, and Kamikaze and Sujiro are way up there. But I think there's a very good case that through this point in time, Cookie is the greatest. He's just set so many records. He's won so many games, so many more than the field, and he's just racked up so many icons. He had a bad 2005, but such a good 2004 and 2006. So let's move on to 2007. We're starting to approach when I joined the site. We have Shadwell, who had 2 really nice quarterfinal runs. Sujiro doesn't play much this year, but in his one tournament, makes a finals run, wins 5 games, and the first Rhinoa tournament. Kamikaze makes a finals in Kate Sith, only losing to a player who will show up in the top 3, Delial, wins 7 games. Jaws also makes the Rhinoa 1 finals, scores 16, but has a slightly tougher road than Sujiro. That's why he places ahead. Grat also scores 16 points. Grat is one of those big names. He keeps just missing the list here, but this time he does make it in a tie for 6th through 8th with 8 wins and semifinals and a quarters. Keith Atkinson with his finals run in TTAC 5, beating some good players, getting 7 wins, earns 5th in Player of the Year. And then we get a jump to the 5th site championship winner, Sukadin, with 25 points. Who you got for the top 3? Who's going to make it? We're going to get the emergence of some real superstars here. So in 3rd place, we get Daikon Entite with 3 icons, a semifinals, a quarterfinals, and a quarterfinals for 13 wins. Dalial with 43 points also gets 13 wins with a win and 2 quarterfinals. And Seto with 55 points wins 2 tournaments and gets 14 wins. So Seto is my 2007 Player of the Year. This is the first time where I know who actually won it, which is that Dalial won the 2007 Player of the Year, and he had an awesome year. By this metric, I would give the award this year to Seto. And I think looking at their records, I think I probably do lean Seto this year, though I tend to be a Dalial partisan and tend to argue he was the superior overall player. I would give the 2007 award to Seto. So Dalial and D become the 2nd and 3rd players after Cookie to win 3 icons in a single year. So that is a rare and impressive feat. Seto ties Cookie's 14 wins for the 2nd or 3rd most in a year. Again, Cookie also holds the record with 17 wins. And Seto ties Doc Evil's record for most tournaments won in a single year with 2. Deli shatters the record for most points in a 4-tournament year. The previous record was 37. He gets to 43. But Seto jumps to 55, setting well ahead the all-time record, 12 ahead. Can that be beaten? Can someone have a better year than 55? And the answer is yes, but they will take more tournaments to do so, because we're about to enter the 6-tournament era a year rather than just 4 tournaments a year. And no surprise, you score more points when there are more points available. Kamikaze and Sujiro become the first 2 players to hit the top 10 3 times. Really impressive feat from both of them. And again, they are always paired right next to each other, Kamikaze and Sujiro. Some more things that happened, because 2007 had a lot going on. The previous record was 4 wins against great opponents. Remember, I'm giving bonus points for beating great opponents. And Delial shatters that record with 8 this year, twice as many great opponents as had been beaten in a single year before. Remember, he won, if we go back, he won 13 games. 8 of them were against really good opponents, either winners or top-tier non-winners, and Seto had 7. So these are easily surpassing kind of previous years, in my opinion. These are, I think, clearly Delial and Seto in 2007, in my opinion, are the most impressive 2 years anyone's ever had, though you can definitely argue for Cookie or Doc Evil. Diacon's 29 points is most for a non-winner. That's a pretty cool feat, and his third place is the highest finish by someone to not win a tournament in that year. Really cool record, I think, for Diacon there. And the most total player of the year points, if we add up your scores over the years, Seto now leapfrogs into first with 96 after his incredible 55-point year. Cookie has 80, Kamikaze 79, Sujiro 73, always next to each other. Doc Evil 65, Kaus 56, and I told you Mafi Josie would be back. He's up over 50 with 52. This was Delial's second year of tournament playing, and he's up to 44, so he will certainly be joining the list soon. So far, every gold medal in 04, 05, and 06 was exactly 3 points over second place. Seto wins the award by 12, which is the largest margin we have seen so far. All right, 2008. So we jumped to 6 tournaments. And we have a tie between Jaws and Sephiroth for 10th. Sephiroth was a short-term player who I thought was really good, though I also mostly saw him in mid-2008, which was basically when I just joined. So I'm not sure I was the best calibrated to have a sense of how good the play I was seeing was. But I think he was a very good player and had a really nice showing. Basically was just there for a year, and I think was really good over that year. This is Yojimbo's first year, and he already makes the top 10 with a finals and a quarterfinals and 9 wins. Kazik, with a really tough run in Vincent, gets 8 wins, makes his second finals and second appearance. Now, Turds actually won the Player of the Year award, or tied for first with Delial. Here, he doesn't score as well. A lot of people got a lot of wins. But I think if you talk to Turds, he will happily admit he won it because Vincent was at the end of the year, and thus he got credit from voters at the end of the year, and that other players like Delial probably had better years. But I think that Turds had a great year, won 10 games, won Vincent, and it's come 7th by this metric. Kind of speaks to 2008 being one of the really exciting years in Triple Triad history. Again, I might think that because it was the first year I was here, and so seeing people put up results seems so much... What's that bias called? It's like, when you're 5 years old, everything that happens seems so important because you have so little experience in your life. And the difference between, being 4 and 5 years old is a fifth of your life. While the difference between being like 25 and 26 is, a 26th of your life. Each year is much less of your life that you've lived as you go on. So as you spend time somewhere, I think it's easy for each year to feel a little less important and meaningful because it is a smaller percentage of the experience you've had so far. So for me, 2008 will always kind of be that most fascinating year, but I think it's really borne out here. You see Kaus has 15 wins, and we'll get to this, but 4 icons with a finals and 3 quarters. Seto has a finals and a semis and 15 wins as well. Serenity, despite the years being cut off in a way that doesn't favor him, has a win and a semifinals and 11 wins. And a fantastic 46-point score. Again, these scores are higher because, as you can see at the top, we're up to 6 tournaments a year rather than 4. But a fantastic year by Scythe or Serenity, whatever you want to call him. And who is our top 3? I'm pretty sure you can guess Delial's there, but who else has made it? Well, we have Great Sephiroth, the first year of Great Sephiroth, really rocking. He puts up 49 points, winning Rhinoa 3, and making the finals of the 6th Site Championship for 16 wins. Remember, entering this year, the record is Cookie at 17, and then Cookie and Seto, I believe, at 14, or Cookie and Delial at 14. One of those. So we have 2 players hitting 15 in Seto and Kaus already. Great Sephiroth hitting 16. We have Kana with winning Rhinoa 2, a semifinals in Triad War 6, and a semifinals in Rhinoa 3, hitting 18 wins, a new record. And then Delial with 2-1 tournaments and a semifinals, 19 wins in a year, scoring an absurd 70 points. So, what a year. So much happened this year. Seto gets 39 points, 15 wins, which entering this year would be the 3rd most all-time. No, that would be 2nd most all-time. There was only the 17-year win. And somehow comes 5th. Scythe scores 46, which would be 2nd all-time in points. It would be higher than Delial's 2007 and comes 4th this year. So I think at this point in time in 2008, we start getting a more consistent top crowd. Not just that the same players start showing up more frequently, more regularly, but also that those players are winning at higher rates. And if you look at win percentage and other stuff, I think that is borne out. And this is also aided by having more tournaments per year to play, right? Because we went from 4 tournaments to 6. which is of course going to make the scores higher. Now you might think, well, then we can just multiply the results by 2/3 and get a comparable rate. I sort of actually do that later, but I don't think it's quite right because it is easier to spike a bunch of good results in 4 tournaments than in 6. You know, a smaller sample, it is easier to have surprisingly high results. So actually, if you pay attention to stuff like regression to the mean, or like sports, you know, in sports, 5 games into a season, people will always be like, so-and-so's on pace to do such and such, and they never come close to it, or very rarely come close to it. And it's one of those things where being on pace for is not the same as achieving. And if you achieve 1.5 times as much in 6 tournaments as someone did in 4, you've in fact done something significantly more impressive. How much? Okay, we can debate about that. But anyhow. Kana ties Seto's 55-point record for a year, only to have Delial hit an absurd 70 points. And Delial also becomes the 3rd player to win 2 tournaments in a year. Relatively quietly, with all these absurdly high scores, Kaus sets a record for icons in a year. He wins 4 icons in a year, the first player to ever do so, 5 years after he won his first tournament. And somehow, this only gets him 6th place. What a year. Kana gets 18 wins. Again, much like Kana's 55 points, this would be a yearly record or tied for it. But then Delial gets 19 wins, the new record for points. So I think this is a pretty exciting year, and we have more stuff for you. There have been 2 ties for 10th place, and Jaws has been part of both. This is kind of goofy, not important, but I think a bit goofy. Seto ties for most top 10s with Kamikaze and Sujiro, making his 3rd. And Delial becomes the 2nd player to earn 2 medals, get 2 top 3 results after Cookie. Delial has a 1st and a 2nd, even better than Cookie's 2 seconds. Seto breaks the record with 39 points for most points without having won a tournament that year, beating Daikon Entite's record from the previous year. 5 different players won 15 tournament matches, a record which I'm not sure has ever passed. This might be the year where the most different players win 15 tournament matches. And our leaderboard for Player of the Year all time, if we add up your score each year, we have Seto at 135. Delial rockets from not being on the list into 2nd place with 114. Kamikaze and Kaus are both sitting on 94. Kana has 87. Cookie has 86. Cookie only does well in even years, so he was great in 0406, but not good in 0507, and not good this time in 08 either. Cookie will be dropping off, though he'll amass some more points, don't worry. Sujiro at 76 did not play this year, or played very little, while Kamikaze did quite well, so they are finally getting some separation between them. Doc Evil still at 65. Great Sephiroth, after just playing for like a year and a third, is already up to 59. Scythe is up to 59, Serenity. And Mafi Josie at 52 drops out of the top 10. I don't think he will return, but Mafi Josie is definitely one of the early greats and definitely keeps playing well. And so while I don't think he'll make it back to the top 10, he'll be one of those people hovering between 10 and 20th for the rest of Triple Triad history. And there's still more. Wow, 2008, what a year. This video might be going long, so I might split this up into 2 videos on the history of Player of the Year winners. But Seto and Delial both matched Delial's prior record of 8 great opponents beaten in a year this year, with multiple other players breaking what used to be the record of 4 wins. Scythe beats 6 great opponents, Kaus beats 5. But none of this is the record, because Kana, with 9 wins against great opponents, sets a new record for it. Kana had quite a year, not as good as Delial's, but really an incredible year. Again, it's mind-blowing to me that Kaus Debonair becomes the first player to win, make an icon in 4 tournaments, and is like not in the conversation for who had the best year. Seto held the record gap to 2nd place with 12 when he scored 55, and Delial came 2nd with 43. But Delial now is 15 points ahead of the silver medalist with 70 to Kana's 55. And the 3 best yearly performances, the best showing in a single year, is Delial's 2008 with 70, Seto's 2007 with 55, and Kana's 2008 with 55. Now, if you adjust that for the number of tournaments, Seto's 2007 will move into 1st as the best tournament ever, but Delial's 2008 will be 2nd, and Delial's 2007 moves into 3rd. So however you do it, Seto and Delial are going to look incredibly good, and Kana is the other really impressive big name here. All right, I think I'm going to do one more tournament and then maybe break this up into a second video. So 2009, maybe I should get to 2010. I do love 2010. 2009, we see Pogi, who never really returns, but has a nice run on Rhino of 4. We see an appearance of the Piggy Man with a semifinals and a quarterfinals, 9 wins. Turds shows up on his second consecutive list, making a semifinals and a quarterfinals, 11 wins. Kana can't quite follow up his tremendous 2008, but with 4 different quarterfinals, you'll notice that's a lot of quarterfinals and 12 wins. It's hard to not call that a fantastic year. Yojimbo scores 28. He moves up on the list, up to 6th, tied 5th, 6th, making a finals and 2 different quarterfinals, winning 11 matches. Demonic Avenger wins Rhinoa 5, is the 5th place finisher this year, tied 5th, 6th with 8 wins. Great Sephiroth always places really high, and basically every year he's active. He wins Sid and gets the quarterfinals of Rhinoa 5 for 12 wins. Now, this is another year. So 2008, in real life, Delial and Turds were voted tied for the winner, and I think Delial was the best player in 08. In 09, there was actually a very close vote, and it was between the 3 players in the top 3. So let's see them. Nightwish, with 2 different finals and a semifinal, scores 43 points with 16 wins, which is very close to the highest we've seen. But then Slash scores 61 points, winning Rhinoa 5, making the finals of Sid and the finals of Rhinoa 4, winning 21 tournament matches in a single year. Scores 61 points, but that's not good enough. This was my breakout year and by far my best year. I scored 93 points, winning 3 tournaments and getting a semifinals for 21 wins in the year. And I didn't even play one of the tournaments. So this is a pat myself on the back moment. It ended up being a pretty close vote, and I've always thought, my year was so good, surely I should have won it by a lot. But if you look at Slash's year, it's really one for the record books too, and Nightwish's is very, very good. So I kind of get, looking back at it, why the vote was close. So Slashin was up, both break Delial's record of 19 wins in a year with 21. Was up, becomes the first player to win 3 tournaments in a year. He also sets a new record for points with 93. Slash sets the 3rd highest total of points in a year, only behind Was Up and Delial. Nightwish sets the record for most points, 43, without winning a tournament, and comes 3rd. Was Up and Kana tie Kaus's record of 4 icons in a year, so we now have 3 players who have managed 4 icons in a single year. But overall, this is a clearly lower scoring year than 2008. At the very top, it's a little higher, but most of the way down, it's a little lower. And I think overall, 2008 and also 2010, so let's do 2010 this video, are just really exciting years where just a lot of kind of new things happen that hadn't been achieved before. This year Was Up and Slash have, wins records that, spoilers, will not be broken. 21 is the most any player ever wins in a single year. So congrats to Slash and myself. Do we have more this year? Yeah, we do. Each player to win a medal, finish in the top 3 here, had never finished top 10 before. None of myself, Slash, or Nightwish had finished in the top 10. This was all of our second years playing, and we finished top 3 this year. I break Kana's record of 9 great opponents beaten with 11. Nightwish comes 2nd with 6. Set a new record for being 32 points ahead of 2nd place. 93 is 32 ahead of 61. And an interesting tidbit, no player has won Player of the Year awards twice by this metric. And even if we split up 03 and 04, that would not be the case. In 04, we have Doc Evil. In 05, we have Kamikaze. In 06, we have Sujiro. In 07, we have Seto. In 08, we have Delial. In 09, we have Was Up. We do not have a 2-time winner. Will we ever see one? We may. So the Player of the Year all-time leaderboard, Delial has a better year than Seto and, gains ground on him. Seto 137, Delial 131. Kana keeps moving up with 114. Was Up 102, Cookie 101, Great Sephiroth 95. Kamikaze and Kaus are still on 94. Sujiro's on 76, and Serenity is on 70. Doc Evil falls off the list, with Scythe having had such a good pair of years in 08-09, and Slash is just 1 point behind him, so Slash is close to making the list. Turds, Yojimbo, and Nightwish, I think in that order, are getting close to the list as well. So look out for Slash, Turds, Yojimbo, or Nightwish to have a chance at making the list. They'll need good years to come. If they don't have it, they won't make it. But they're the players in with a shout. They're the closest to making the list of active players. All right, let's do 2010. So in 2010, Delial makes 2 quarterfinals, wins 11 games. Kana makes a semis, a quarters, a quarters, and a quarters. Jesus Christ, he did 4 icons again, 12 wins. Sir Smokes makes his first appearance with 2 semifinals and 12 wins. Seto doesn't play much, but he wins Triad Wars 8. I believe... I'm not sure how much he played this year, but he wins Triad Wars 8. Yojimbo wins Rhinoa 6, gets 2 quarterfinals, wins 16 games, and finishes in the same spot he did the year before, 6th. Actually, last year, 2009, he was tied for 5th, 6th. Which is to say, 2010 is a much more competitive, I think, interesting year than 2009. And the leaderboard at the top is really close. The gap between kind of 2nd and 6th is just very small. I believe they're all in the 40s. So Yojimbo has a tremendous year, but because this is a much more close competitive year, doesn't move up in the rankings, but does play better. Kamikaze has a comeback year, phenomenal year, 44 points, wins Squall, gets a semifinals, 13 wins. Was up with a finals, a semis, and a quarters, and gets 46 points with 14 wins. You might say, that looks clearly worse than Yojimbo's year, or maybe Kamikaze's year, but I beat a lot of really good players, and that got me a lot of bonus points. If you lower the bonus points, I do drop down to 6th. But who in 2010 is our top 3? I often call this the year of the Polish brothers, but someone else snuck in there. Will a Polish brother, MC or Nightwish, win first, or will someone else? In 3rd place, we have Nightwish, who gets a win, a finals, a semis, and a quarters. In 2nd place, Sephiroth has a win and a semis and 18 wins. And in 1st place, also with 18 wins, and also, much like Nightwish, having a win, a finals, a semis, and a quarters, we have MC with 60 points. So a bunch of cool things happened this year. It was a really competitive year. This is one of the more fun ones to look back on. I think 2008 and 2010 really stand out as interesting years where a lot of players had great years in different ways. So as I said, Yojimbo stayed in 6th place despite jumping from 28 to 41 points. Really strong crowd. Again, I think this is a really cool year. I think there are lots of really great players who didn't come close to the list because the top 10 were so strong. Kana, Nightwish, and MC all win 4 icons in a year. I wrote this wrong. So Kana, Kausen was up are the only players to have done so previously, so it has now been done 6 times, but Kana is 2 of those times. So huge congrats to Kana for being the only player so far to win 4 icons in a single year twice, and possibly the only player to ever do so. Nightwish and MC become the first and I'm pretty sure only players to hit the cycle, meaning getting exactly a win, a finals, a semis, and a quarters in the same year. The Polish brothers just had incredible and very similar years. MC's comes out, by my ratings, is a little better due to having beaten clearly harder opponents. Was Up has the most wins against great opponents this year. That's how we got up to 4th, and sets a new record for most points by a non-winner, and MC beat the 2nd most greats this year with 6. The all-time leaderboard, Seto grows his lead a bit. He has a better year than Delial. So Seto 173, Delial 154, Was Up 148, Great Sephiroth 143. Kamikaze moves up with a great year to tie Kana at 138. Cookie is still at 101. Nightwish jumps onto the list at 96. Kaus is at 94. And Yojimbo enters the list as well with 92. Sujiro and Scythe fall out of the top 10. Sujiro will have a comeback. I don't think it will be enough to get him back in the top 10, but we'll see. MC, Turds, and Slash are the next biggest threats to break in with 80, 78, and 76. And all, I think, have a very good shot to make the list. But of course, if you look at the list, a lot of the players on it are still active and still upping their scores, so it's certainly not easy to make the top 10. One of those things about top 10 lists is at the start of a thing, it's relatively easier to make a top 10 list, but as people aggregate scores over time, you suddenly have to catch up to what players who've been playing 3-4 years have amassed, and that can be very difficult. The single year leaderboard, the best year we have Was Up in 09, then Delial in 08, then Slash in 09, then MC in 2010, then Seto in 07, which if you wanted to, you could bump up quite a bit because that was a 4 tournament year, and the 08, 09, 10 period is all a 6 tournament a year period. Kana 08 with 55, Great Sephiroth 08 with 49, Great Sephiroth 2010 with 48, Doc Evil in 03-04, and Nightwish in 2010. And I think this would be a good time to stop this video. I'll split this into 2 sections. Yeah, we've gone on almost 40 minutes. That's too long. I thought I could do this all in one video, and that was very stupid of me. And yeah, so I'll do another video soon, hopefully actually published at the same time, of, the Player of the Year winners. And we still have not seen a repeat winner, with MC being the 7th distinct winner, winning it in 2010. I think I didn't say, but that also looks like Nightwish probably makes the top 2 again, for another medal. Probably should mention that. Anyways, adios.